Hello everyone, welcome to another episode in our financial health series, Moneysense, where we help you to make sense of all things money. I am Hope Forbes-Sterling, and with me today is Eugenie Walker. In today's episode, we will be talking about financial health, knowing where you stand. In our last episode, we looked at insurance and its impact on wealth. Be sure to visit our social media pages where you can see how you can use insurance to build your wealth. So Eugenie, financial health. This is a term we hear from time to time. What can you tell us about financial health? What is financial health?
Yes, Hope, you're correct. We've heard that term many times. The term financial health is a term used to evaluate the state and stability of an individual's finances and financial affairs. So you can tell how healthy your finances are by measuring your assets against your liabilities. So our assets are what we own. So the car, the house, the land, the savings,
The
investments, thank you.
Yeah.
And our liabilities are what we owe. The
Right.
loans, the car loans, the mortgage, the credit card bills,
The student
loans. Thank you again, Hope.
So basically, Eugenie, we are doing a comparison between what we own versus what we owe. And one very important point I want all my viewers to know, that it is very, very important that we all have financial goals. It is important that we set financial objectives for ourselves.
This takes us to our next point, Hope. How can we measure our financial health? We measure our financial health by assessing how far along we are at accomplishing our goals that we have set. So, say for instance, you had decided to purchase a car. How far along am I at achieving that car purchase? How far along am I at achieving that home purchase? How far into savings am I? Those things are things that we can use to measure our financial health.
Another way we can assess our financial health is to see where we are with savings, and that emergency fund is very, very important. So as we talk about savings, it doesn't matter what your income is. It's important that you put aside something for the rainy day. You know about the rainy day that our parents always talk about? Those unforeseen circumstances, they will pop up. And you have to ensure that you have the resources to cover that. Very important. No matter what your income is, very important that you set aside something for the emergencies.
Another point to note is that we need to calculate our debt to income ratio. We need to ensure that this is in good standing. How we do that? We divide our bills and expenses by our income. It should be 40% or less. If it is 40% or less, we know we're in good standing.
So Eugenie, basically you're saying to me that if my income is 100,000, I should not be spending more than 40% on expenses, 40% of my income. So viewers, there you have it. Your debt to income ratio should be 40% or less at all times. If you find yourself over 40%, it means you have some adjustment to do.
And Hope, we have to ensure that we have sufficient insurance. Viewers, we have to ensure that we're properly covered. Too many times we see where persons are ill and they're not able to afford medical bills. The insurance in most cases will cover the bulk of your medical expenses. So please ensure that you're properly covered. Another point to note, we have to ensure that we keep track of our credit score. It is very important to maintain a good credit score, and we can do so by ensuring that we pay our bills on time and ensure that we check with the credit bureau to know what is going on with our score.
Some solid points there, Eugenie, on how we can measure our financial health. I want my viewers to listen very closely now to this point on how they can measure their financial health. Calculating your net worth. So on our screen, you can see we have two columns. We have assets and we have our liabilities. So we're going to be looking at the asset column presently.
And yes, Hope, our fixed assets are listed, our current assets, and it takes us to our total assets. And our fixed assets are our house, or car, or retirement fund. Things like those are considered fixed assets.
So just as we have them on the screen, right where you are going to make your notation. So if it is that you have land, you're going to write down land and you write down the value of your land, right? If it is you have a motor vehicle, write motor vehicle and you write the value for the motor vehicle. Investment, retirement fund, these are part of your assets as well, so you would want to make a note of those. And from the screen, you can see that our total fixed assets, that is between house, motor vehicle, and retirement fund, that is $12,280,000. So you can do your calculation for your assets. Now we move on to current assets, Eugenie.
Yes, Hope. And our current assets are our savings, our emergency funds, and things like those, or income, things like those that are pretty liquid.
Right. So basically what we do, still under our assets column, we are now going to be totaling or adding together the fixed assets and the current assets. From the screen, you can see the total for fixed assets, $12,280,000. Current assets, $440,000. So when we do that calculation, our total is $12,720,000. I don't know what your figure is, but you can do your calculation. So that's for our asset column. So now that you have added your assets, we're going to move on to our liabilities. So under our liabilities column, you will realize, Eugenie, that we have two areas. We have the long-term liabilities,
yes,
and we have the current liabilities. Share with us, what are some of the things that you would consider long-term liabilities?
Yes, Hope. Our long-term liabilities are anything that we have, or loans that is over a year or more. So those would usually be your auto loans or mortgages or student loan. And I'm sure you were getting to current liabilities as well. And those are our immediate expenses, such as credit cards, small loans that you would have paid off within a year. Those things are considered current liabilities.
All right, so we have our long-term liabilities as you explained, and from the screen you can see we have, under our long-term liabilities, we have auto loan, we have mortgage, we have student loan. What we're going to do is we're going to add all of those together, add the values for all of those items listed there. And from what you're seeing there, you will see that our total long-term liability, the value is $8,516,826. To our long-term liabilities, we're going to be adding our current liabilities. From the screen, you can see that the total current liability total to $67,364. So we're adding long-term liabilities to current liabilities, and that is a total of $8,584,190. So guess what, viewers? We're going to go back to our asset column now. Remember, our total value for the asset was $12,720,000, and our total value for liability was $8,584,190. What we're going to be doing now is that we're going to be subtracting our liabilities from assets. We're going to be subtracting liabilities from assets. For this particular example, you will realize that to the left of the screen, to the bottom, you realize that we have a net worth of $4,135,810. Now this figure says a lot to us. This is actually our net worth, or net worth. And a very important point we want to note here, viewers, is that at all times your net worth should be in the positive. In the green, not in the red. It should always be a plus. So if it is that you did your calculation and your net worth is in the negative, we hope it is not so. But if that is the case, it would mean that you have to do some adjustment on the liabilities side to get those expenses down.
And Hope, in most cases, we can reduce our credit card limits, we can work on our utilities, We can adjust our food bill. Those little things can assist us to bring our net worth over to the positive.
We can cut the food bill if possible too. So if it is that you used to buy lunch every day, you can start carrying your lunch, those clothes that you normally buy and you have them pack up in the closet. So especially now COVID, I'm sure many of you ladies and gentlemen, you have a lot of shoes and a lot of clothes. You're not going anywhere now because we're mostly staying in. So you recognize you really don't have a need for those. So we need to cut back on some of those clothes and shoes that we are purchasing.
And in most cases that will fix the credit card story.
Right, and help us to increase or improve on our net worth.
Viewers, please remember that your financial health is not static. It changes. This means that from time to time, you have to check and ensure that things are running smoothly. So, for instance, remember the price of food will change. This will affect your spending habit. The price of other goods and services will also change. So once you don't have an increased income, or even if you have an increased income, you still need to be mindful of these things.
Very important, Eugenie. And not having a proper budget management plan in place can also affect your spending pattern. So you want to ensure that you have a budget, but not only having a budget, it's important that you stick to that budget.
That is true, Hope, because many times even in ourselves, we see where we have a plan to do something, or we may just go to the store to get something, and then before you know it, we're coming out with a cartload of goods, and that was not our intended purpose of the visit in the first case. So ensure that you make a budget and you stick to your budget. It's important to stick to the budget.
Viewers, poor money management is also another thing that can affect your financial health. So if you have a savings pattern, you have to ensure that it is consistent. So you don't save this month and spend it the other month. You have to ensure that what you set aside for savings, you ensure that you save that amount every month.
That is true, Hope, because a lot of times we take it for granted that it is our money and we're putting it aside and we're not penalized for it. So we're not sticking to the plan. So we're not consistent. So you tell yourself, I'm going to save $10,000 every month. And then month end comes and you just say, you know what? Nobody is going to call me for this money because it's mine. And so I'm not going to bother put it in this month. I'm going to do it next month. And you know what's going to happen? Next month is going to come around and you're not going to do it. So ensure that you stick to the plan. Stick to your budget. Be consistent with your savings. That is very important. Consistency is key.
Right. So another thing that can affect your financial health is loss of investment. For those of us who have the savings and we might be investing in the stock market or bonds or probably fixed deposit, with what is happening in the economy now, the returns is very minimal or probably there is none. So we want to ensure that we create that balance in terms of our spending habit so that we'll be able to manage those losses. So we have to spend less in order to cover those losses.
That is absolutely true, Hope. And you know what else affects our financial health? The loss of jobs. And in this pandemic here, we have seen it happen right across the world. Not only in Jamaica, we've seen it happen in other countries, and it affects a lot of persons here.
And to add to that, the loss of job, we might not lose our job, but we are experiencing pay cut. It would mean that the income is reduced, so we have to make some adjustments.
That is absolutely true. And you know what? In our field, we are exposed to a lot of persons like that, so we're able to speak firsthand on that.
Right. So also there are those unforeseen circumstances that might pop up. Right? So if it was not a part of our financial plan, we'll have to make those adjustments to include them. So for example, if a child comes into play
and you did not plan for it,
right,
it will place a heavy financial strain on you. So you have to be careful and be mindful of this. So that's why we're encouraging savings, and we're encouraging you to have at least 6 months worth of savings that you can survive on.
So viewers, here are some typical signs that you are financially healthy. You have a steady flow of income.
Yes, Hope. And there might be rare changes in your finances, and how quickly you're able to adapt to these changes. Those things will tell you if you are financially stable.
Another sign that you are financially healthy is that your debt to income ratio is good. And remember from discussion earlier, we said that your debt to income ratio should be 40% or less.
So viewers, if you can save sufficiently and comfortably each month, that means you're financially healthy. You can also check your investments. If you're getting sufficient returns on your investment, that speaks financial health as well.
Having a strong cash balance that is growing and continues to grow means you are financially healthy. Remember, we looked at the net worth earlier. If you have a positive net worth, it means you are financially healthy.
Yes, Hope. And once you're able to cover your emergencies without tapping much into your savings or any at all, then you're good. And once you're able to accomplish those goals that you have set within the time that you have set, then you know that you are on the road to good.
Viewers, I know that we have been giving you a mouthful, and I know that you are doing your personal assessment right now. And if it is, you find that your status is not so good and you need to make some improvement, here are some tips on how you can improve your financial health if you are not in good standing presently.
There you have it, guys. This brings us to the end of another episode of Moneysense. When it comes to your financial health, ignorance is not bliss. Know where you stand.
Stay tuned to our social media pages. I am Hope Forbes-Sterling, and my co-host today was Eugenie Walker. Until next time, stay safe and maintain good financial health.